Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Shomler. This is Desperately Dating. And my co-host for this, not just for this episode, for the entire podcast series, is a really fun one. It's my stepmom, Karyn. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
I'm so excited about this. Like, it's so interesting. I wanted to be very clear at the beginning of this episode, our opening episode, our first ever of the series. If you follow me online, you know that I went through a breakup recently. However, hilariously, this is not a response to that breakup. This was a plan we've had for a long time. It just so happened that in the development process of this show and this idea, I suddenly became single. I suddenly became part of the target audience for this show.
Funny how that works.
I know. It's actually kind of helped. It's funny because you're married to my dad.
That is true.
You're not 22.
Nope.
I'm 22 and single, and our perspectives are so different. And I'm really excited about this. I look to you kind of as a mother bear in my life.
Oh, thank you.
I'm excited. You, though, however, so I'm going to be self-deprecating for a minute. You're the brains of this operation. This was your idea. Where did it come from?
Well, I think we have to give your dad a little credit on this, too. Mm. He and I were doing one of our soul-searching front porch chats, as he does for you. For me, he's sort of a life coach and a career coach.
Yeah, we're very grateful to have him.
Yeah, so grateful. Yeah. And, I've been going through a bit of a transition. I've been working in healthcare for over 20 years, and it's been great, but I'm ready for something new. Mm. Figuring out what exactly that is that uses the talents and interests that I already have has been a challenge. Yeah. And he's been a great mentor for me on that. So I remember there was this one time we're sitting out on the front porch and he's like, well, what things interest you? What could you do? What skills do you have? And, we kind of went through them and talked about the pros and cons. And, I was talking about how, I like to cook. I could teach people to cook. He's like, yeah, he's writing it down. I could make my chocolate that everyone loves, and I could make that and sell it. Yeah, that sounds good. And then, we're going through some other ideas, and he's like, you could talk about relationships and dating. You did that pretty successful. Of course, he said that with a smirk because I'm married to him now. But.
Oh, yeah. Clearly, you know what you're doing.
Yeah, clearly, yes. It was kind of interesting. When we got to that topic, we had, I would say, polar opposite reactions. Mm. He was immediately like, this is a brilliant idea. And I was immediately like, no way.
Oh, so because what I've heard from the story is you're on the porch and you're talking about how you hate that people desperately date and it frustrates you. And my dad goes, that's a great name. You got to do it. That's awesome. My dad was all in and you were still like, you never done a podcast. This is your first ever podcast you've ever done in your entire life, correct?
For sure. Yes.
That's awesome. You're doing well.
Thank you. It's early yet, but yes. So he thought it was just a brilliant idea when I said that word, because I said, I don't want to be around a bunch of people that are desperately dating. That sounds awful. I've managed to climb out of that awful pool. I don't want to go there again. Yeah. But then the more we talked about it, the more I realized I really had a lot to say about it. And so that's how that idea was born.
The minute
he immediately bought that domain for me, which is, his MO.
He was like, well, it's because it's such a good idea. The minute I heard it, I was like, Karyn, we should make a podcast together. That's I don't care if you're old and I'm not, and you're my stepmom. I actually think the dynamic's amazing. I was like, this is such a good idea, and to me, your wisdom on all manner of topics, but especially this one, is really valuable. And you have been through heartache and you've been married and divorced. You have such a valuable perspective that I think is really helpful to a lot of people. And I really admire the way it seemed like you've gotten your shit together, which is cool. Where do you want to go? I want to lean to you. You have a plan for this episode. I'm here. I think my job, to some degree, I think I have a valuable perspective, absolutely. But I think a lot of my job here is to pull information out of you, because I think you do a lot of writing about this topic. I think you're very wise here. Where do you want to go first?
Oh, well, I'll definitely get to that. But before we go there, I just wanted to say that I'm really looking forward to doing this with you, because I think that it'll be a fun perspective that, you'll be able to give the male perspective, younger, in the 20s, never married, no kids, all that sort of thing. And then I'll be able to give the female perspective of someone that's older and has been married and has children. And so I think that together we'll be able to speak to a lot of different people, and that makes me really excited.
I think so too. I think our target audience is enormous. It's
agreed.
It's people your age who are single. It's people my age who are single. Anybody who's single and really anybody who's desperately dating is out there for us.
Or that's single and, doesn't want to be forever.
Yeah. And then that's a heartache to a lot of people. I know it is to me. I want to be married someday. I want to have a healthy relationship. I remember being alone at Christmas Eve this year, and I was like, and we, like you and I hung out, you, my dad, and I all went to this family get-together. It was really fun, but we get back about 8 o'clock, and it ended up the night, I was alone from like 8:30 to midnight, and I was like, how nice would it be to be in a relationship and have someone to sit next to and drink coffee with by the fire or hang out with, whatever. New Year's Eve, like, I'm alone, and that's sad to me. Like, I'd really love to have someone with me, and so I really understand the struggle of desperately dating and desperately wanting more someday.
Right. And that's what I was hoping we could talk about a little bit more depth today is, what is desperately dating? And in my mind, desperately dating usually begins with an end. Like you've mentioned, you were in a relationship.
Yeah.
You come out of that relationship and you had been kind of comfortable being a we for a while.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're just a me. And, how do you navigate that? And I think it's tempting to want to just find somebody to shack up with again.
Yeah,
right off the bat.
When you're in a relationship, we were talking about this a minute ago, where you're there because you need it rather than because you're healthy and ready to add an addition to your life. It's a very unhealthy place to be in, an unhealthy reason to have a relationship.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I see desperately dating as both a state of mind, but then also actions that flow from that. So it's a state of mind that you need a partner. That you will not be okay on your own. Yeah. That you need to find someone to fill whatever void you see in your life. And then the actions that come from that are desperately dating. It is just what it sounds like. Well,
it's the mindset and the lack of, there's like an anxiety to people. I know I've been there, where you're single and you're like, okay, what's my next plan? And you're looking around desperately, like, is it this person? Like, you just desperately searching, and you don't have a peace about it. I think a lot of that comes from a sense of maybe hope that, I'll never find someone again. I had this great thing and I was so comfortable, and what if I never feel that again? And it's funny how, like, every time I break up with someone, I feel that way. It's like, I always find another person.
Right.
We'll have discussions about it later on, but it's like, you have to have hope that, I do think I can eventually find someone. But if you don't, that's where the desperation comes from, and to some degree, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's about, to be healthy dating, and we can talk, lots more about,
we have so many
about what
things
healthy
to talk
dating
about.
is later. Yeah. But it is about hope, and it's about, I think, having some measure of peace, about being by yourself, so that you see finding a partner as adding to your life, not something, a void that you're desperately trying to fill, not a need that needs to be met. It's a want, it's a desire, it's an addition. I
have a question for you. I mean, you were married, you have kids with your ex-husband, you're now remarried to my dad, but after your divorce, like, where were you? I mean, I can't even handle a breakup, and I'm 22. Like, I can't imagine having kids in a house with somebody and that ending. How do you not desperately date in that situation?
Well, the short answer is I did, and not well. I was with my first husband for, I think, a total of something like 16 years. And I mean, your lives really grow together, especially when you have children together after that amount of time. So when we finally reached the bitter end and I was on the other side of a divorce, I definitely did feel that.
It's probably terrifying to be single.
Yeah, I didn't know how to be by myself, even though I think I've always been a person that, likes my own company. But even still, it just felt like I was missing something, like I needed a partner. I needed to be a we again. And, maybe to some level, and I'm not proud of this, feeling like, I needed to have a male figure in my house, for when my kids were with me. And, all that sounds kind of ugly to me now to admit it. But, I went through it. It didn't last long, thankfully. I think I figured out pretty quickly that was not the recipe for success.
But you have to go through that process to get, like, struggling's not bad. I think that's a thing that I went through. For me, my last relationship was really a 5-year process for me. And it's painful, but it's also a chapter that's now ended. But man, like, it's so valuable. I've learned so many lessons. And it sounds like that process of you're single, your marriage ends, and then you go on this, you're desperately dating for a while, and have this anxiety and this state of mind or actions, whatever it was for you. It sounds like it was valuable, though, because it helped you get your shit together.
Eventually, yeah. Once I saw the writing on the wall that desperately dating was not going to lead me really where I wanted to go if I took a step back and took an honest look at things. But it was definitely a growth process, but it's not like it happened overnight. It required some patience and some looking inwardly pretty frankly.
Yeah. It's hard for me looking around. I'm sure you experience this with people your age. I see my friends, especially now that a while ago when we started talking about this idea of desperately dating, and It's really helped me get my shit together a lot. I start noticing it now, and I'm like, oh, it's painful. It's hard to see someone who is single, hates that about themselves, and is desperate. I mean, it's like it's funny how we chose like literally the best possible topic like title, because we're gonna go back to that, say that a lot. It's kind of the buzzword, but it's true. I don't know if you've seen people your age desperately dating.
All
to me,
the time.
it's infuriating
Yes.
and it's hard to watch.
It is hard to watch, but I don't know. I guess I take it with a little bit gentler view. I mean, I'm more forgiving about it anyway.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that
we've all
it's
been
understandable. We've all, everyone has, you know? And it's not always, what do I want to say? Ugly or pathetic or anything like that. I think it's just very human.
Yeah.
You know, you've been part of a we for so long, or maybe it hasn't been that long, but it was meaningful, or you just really want to be part of a we for all kinds of reasons, and we can get into that more, you know, later too. But
You have this phrase that I really love.
do tell.
You talk about running over stop signs. What does that mean to you?
Well, I can't claim any credit for creating that phrase.
Of course, my dad, who's a genius at naming everything in the world.
No, that wasn't him.
Oh, it wasn't him?
No.
Where did that come
from?
from?
But he loves it too. But it's actually from a friend of mine, Tony, who that's how she described the way that she wound up in her first marriage.
What?
Is that
running over stop signs on the way? That's hilarious.
Ran
and
over
awful.
all kinds of stop signs out of desperation.
So she's no longer married to that guy?
No longer married to that guy. No longer married to that guy. But that image definitely resonates with me. And I guess the other one that I think about when I think about desperately dating that sums it up is, you know, if you think about a relationship as being like on a boat, you're on a boat with your partner.
Yeah.
And then for some reason you fall off the boat, you jump off the boat, or you're pushed off the boat. And all of a sudden you're like alone in this sea of loneliness. And so the impulse, I think, and what leads people to desperately date is that you want to jump back onto whatever the next ship you see going by. You know, you want to grab that life ring and be part of a we again, because it's your comfort zone.
Do you want to go into the idea of, we don't have to in this episode, but the idea of rebounds at all?
I think that probably fits. I mean, I think that's another instinct that people have when they suddenly find themselves alone again is, well, who in the, you know, go through the Rolodex in your mind. You know, of course, you're younger, you probably don't understand that reference, but you know,
I do. I am cultured. Leave me alone.
But anyway, so you start looking back through your old contacts, and you're like, you know, ooh, you know, who could I possibly recycle for this role?
You know, it's interesting when I became single, I reached out to all those people from the past, like old hookups or old whatever. And I actually was in a situation where I was like, I was in the heat of the moment with one of them, and I was like, you know what, this isn't right. I knew to like walk away from that situation. Like, this isn't for me. And I call rebounds, like the definition of rebounds to me is when you're with somebody because you need to be, rather than because you're ready for it, or like it's more out of desperation.
Yep.
And it could be anybody. It's not about them. When you're with someone because it's about you and you're lonely and single, rather than because you like the person and their company, that's the wrong reason, and it's really unhealthy. And it's actually not caring of them.
I agree completely. Yeah. It's just filling a hole.
Yeah. That's sad.
It is.
All right, guys, thank you so very much for listening. That is episode 1 of Desperately Dating. I really appreciate you guys. And that was all about what is desperately dating.